This is how the greatest hitters of all time talk like this.
Yeah. And
You
you
know,
can go on X, you can go on Twitter, and you will find dumbass after dumbass trying to argue with me about how a ball should be hit in the big league. I mean, it's
I'm
just,
in love with the good life. Can't give it up. Make it to the top. Keep climbing. I wanna live it up. The good life. I'm coming up. I'm coming up. The good life. Good life. Oh, good life. Good life. Good life. Yeah.
Ooh, coming in hot, Chinchy. What are you doing, man? This is going to be a good one today, brother.
Hot is an understatement. Not only one of the greatest hitters of all time, but also maybe the best baseball Twitter guy going right now.
No, there's no doubt, dude. All right, so I got to introduce this guy because, bro, I played against this guy pretty much my whole career. And this gave me some nightmares when I see him come up with runners in scoring position in the ninth. But, dude, I mean, this guy is one of the greatest players of all time in that conversation, legit. MVP in National League in 1999, 8-time All-Star. Not an All-Star in 99, though. I got to figure out what that one's going on. World Series champion 95, won the batting title 2008. Now let's get into one other thing real quick. Switch hitters, dude. One of the greatest, maybe the greatest switch hitter of all time. Only switch hitter in MLB history with at least a 300 career average, 400 bombs, and a 400 on base. That's good. Most RBIs ever, MLB history at third base. 2,500 hits and 1,500 walks. That's ridiculous. And played 19 years for the same team. And I could just keep going on, but let's bring him in. Everyone probably knows that we're talking about Chipper Jones. What's up, Chip? Dude, I didn't know you were this good a player, bro. I knew you were good. I didn't know you were this good, though.
yeah, it's amazing how the numbers you can compile over 19 years in the big leagues. So
It's so true, dude. So true. Dude, how's everything going? What's going on in your life right now? I know you got the kids rocking, playing the dad, but what's going on in your life right now?
yeah, basically that's all it revolves around. I mean, when you have 7 boys, as I do, it's a little chaotic. I still have 3 here at home. So, waking up early, taking them to school. Got a couple of golf days a week with some of the fellas around here. Smoltzy lives right down the street. So, he and I play quite a bit. But yeah, that's basically it. Getting ready for the Super Bowl too.
Oh, dude, there's a lot going on. Dude, when you and Smoltzy go toe-to-toe, is it get pretty serious? Because Smoltzy's like, dude, I feel, every time I play Smoltz and ping pong at the network, I'm like, this guy wants to kill me.
Yeah. He's probably one of the most competitive dudes that I've ever been around, which, it adds up because you see when the lights were the brightest, he shined, come postseason. But yeah, it's I'm like a 4-5 handicap, and he gives me like 3 aside and still jumps me pretty good. So
wow, dude,
he's got every shot in the book. And like I said, he's not if I'm up on him after 18, he's not leaving the course until he gets it back.
He's like,
so and
18 more.
Even if it's dark, we go back into the clubhouse and we're playing backgammon or cards or something. So it's never ending.
Oh, dude, that is so great. That is so great. Dude, recently, I got so many questions to go, but I want to talk to you recently about, the Hall of Fame vote just came down. Billy Wagner's in, Ichiro's in with one voter not voting for him. I don't know who that guy is, but I wish he would show his face. Yeah. And CeCe going in too. So Billy Wagner, CeCe, and Ichiro went in, and you had a great. Oh, well, first off, Andrew Jones didn't get in. That was one of the things that kind of like Chinch and I have talked so many times about. Dude, I played with a lot of people in my life, dude, and I've seen a lot of great center fielders. I've never seen anybody cover center field the way Andrew Jones did. And you came out and you had a great idea. You were saying something about, the players, Hall of Fame players having a chance to vote. And I've always thought that. I'm like, why are players not voting for players of guys they've played with? So can you just expand on that a little bit and what your thought process is?
Well, I would hope in the future, and this will be something that myself and some of the other members may bring up going forward, is that maybe we cut down the media vote to 325. There's roughly 400 voters right now. And, if we cut it down to 325, there's 75 living members. That way we have a say. It's not a huge say. It's not the most say, but we're working in conjunction with the writers, and we will have a say as to who goes in, but more importantly, who doesn't get in. I think that's the bigger thing right there. Andrew's going to get in at some point. If he doesn't get in, I think he's going to get in next year. But if he doesn't get in on the writer's ballot, we have era committees in place that, just like Fred McGriff getting in a couple years ago, Andrew will get in. We will correct that if it doesn't happen via the writers. But why should somebody have to wait that long? Why, we're gonna come up upon an example here sooner or later where a guy has to wait more than 10 years, 15 or 20 years, and maybe, God forbid, he passes away and doesn't get to experience it. We can fix that right now, and I think the players know. The players know who the Hall of Famers are. And even if we vote overwhelmingly for a guy to get in and he doesn't, maybe it will influence some of the writers in the following year to get that guy that's on the ballot in the Hall of Fame right away.
Yeah, if they start to see that the players are voting for this guy, that has to sway some writers to go, that's interesting.
And I would never advocate our individual ballots being made public, but I believe that transparency amongst the voters, the members as a whole for a specific player could go a long way. So Andrew Jones, from the membership standpoint, got 90% of the vote or 88% of the vote. Now all of a sudden the writers go, well, damn, the players are all over Andrew Jones. Maybe I should change my vote. That's kind of what I'm
right. I love it, dude. I think it makes total sense. And, like I said, I really do believe, especially you guys that are in Cooperstown. I mean, to have a say in the guys you played against, or like you said, there's either you played against them, some of these guys managed against people, coached against people. So, you got a chance to see it firsthand. Why do you think Andrew Jones is a Hall of Famer? Because, dude, you got to see it firsthand. And I tell you what, I think Smoltzy, Mad Dog, and Glav probably all said something to him in their Hall of Fame speeches with Roman out there. But why is Andrew Jones, for guys that maybe don't know about him, a Hall of Famer?
Why is Ozzie Smith a Hall of Famer? He's
right.
He's in the Hall of Fame because of his defense. This guy won 10 straight Gold Gloves. You said it yourself. Nobody covered more ground out there in center field. Made it look easy too. And by the way, 430 odd homers and 12 or 1,300 RBIs. We should be judged on the numbers that are on paper, what we did accomplish, not what we didn't. The fact that he was in the big leagues at 19 and the drop off started at 31. Okay, I understand the argument. The numbers should be higher. There's no arguing that. But we only have the numbers that he put up. So let's judge him on that and not the fall off at the end. People will, I say he's a generational center fielder. Most guys, every person that has 10 Gold Gloves and 400 plus homers and 1,200 RBIs, guess where they're at?
Yeah, they're in Cooperstown.
They're in Cooperstown.
Cooperstown.
Enough said.
Yeah. Dude, I thought it was incredible playing against him. Like, what used to frustrate me is, like, usually when you got a great center fielder, then cover the gaps. If I got jammed or I got a cutter inside and I could bloop one in there. But, Andrew Jones played so shallow. And he could go back like the greatest receiver of all time with his reads. It was incredible. But, like, those bloop hits, you couldn't get, especially when, in Atlanta. He covered in and back.
Well, when I played left field for a couple of years there in the early 2000s, he was always, like, because he played so shallow, if he wanted to reward the pitcher for making a good pitch, meaning soft contact. So he's like, I have everything here. If they make a mistake and they hit it in the gap off the wall, you go get it. You know, that you take a good angle. You play deeper. I've got all this in front. And man, it was almost like when you were out there, you played defensively, because the second the ball went up between he and I, what do? I look straight at him. You know, I'm like, okay, does he have a bead on it? Nope, he doesn't. I gotta go. You know, I mean, that kind of thing. So,
Yeah.
it was, you really just wanted to stay out of his way. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want any miscommunication between he and I. Stay out of his way. Let the guy who actually knows what he's doing out here, you know, take charge. And that was my philosophy.
Oh man, you guys had some pretty incredible teams back then.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to stay there a little bit, because one of the guys who's a legend, Cooperstown guy, but I used to love playing first base because I could hear Bobby Cox talking the whole game. I'm like, oh, here we go. Like he was on the umps, he was on, he was on everybody. He was funny too.
Yeah.
I loved how funny he was. But what was it like playing for Bobby? Because I felt like he was a man's man. He was an old school guy.
Yeah.
And he let you play, but there were also bright lines that he felt like you got to do it a certain way.
Very few rules. He would let the guys play. You know, you wear the uniform right, be on time, be prepared. You know, all the cliche things. That was Bobby. And in my book that I wrote a couple years back, I compared him to, you know, that favorite grandfather. You know, you've got one grandfather. I had one grandfather that was like, you know, a pastor and straight laced and by the book, real disciplinarian. And then I had that other granddad that every time I shook his hand, he slipped me a 20. You know, I mean, that was my life, and it was awesome. And Bobby was kind of that favorite granddad. It wasn't a 20 you got from him, but it was a cool story. You know, it was a little nugget. It was a learning, instance for you, or entertainment for you. I used to always, I grew up in the shadow of Mickey Mantle. That was my dad's guy, and Bobby played with Mickey. You know, so I was constantly picking his brain about Mickey Mantle and whatnot. So he was great. There's nothing better. I have so many stories of Bobby keeping me in the game and getting tossed.
Dude, can you give us one? Give us one.
So there was this instant in Cincinnati. Off Smoltzy, and Hunter Wendelstadt was umpiring third, and Aaron Boone, manager of the Yankees, hits a triple in the gap. Comes sliding into third. I put the tag on him. He is safe, but he comes off the back. Right? I keep the tag on him. Still calls him safe. Right? Smoltzy's backing up third, and Smoltzy sees that he comes off the bag, and he comes charging in, and he's like, he came off the bag, and somehow Hunter and Smoltzy like stepped on each other's foot and kind of bumped.
Right.
Gone.
Tossed him?
Yeah. First inning of
That's
the
right. I remember this.
First inning of the series, and our starter is gone. Right now, it's a bullpen game. First game of the series, we're screwed. And Bobby comes waddling out there, and he's like, "Oh, Hunter," he just real demonstrative, and Smoltzy was like, "He stepped on my foot," and Hunter was like, "He stepped on my foot." It was inadvertent, regardless. Right. And Hunter, got a little testy and shouldn't have thrown him out, and he did. And Bobby drops this line. Hunter said something to Bobby, and Bobby goes, Hunter's a second generation umpire. And he goes, "Oh, Hunter, you wouldn't make a pimple on your daddy's ass." And there he goes, right?
There he goes.
Aaron Boone and I are standing on third base, just like covering our faces with our gloves, going, "That's the greatest line that I've ever heard." Right? So Bobby tells Smoltz, "You're not thrown out. Get back up on the mound. You're not thrown out." And so Bobby's standing there, or Smoltzy's standing there on the mound like this little kid. Like Randy Marsh walks up to him and he goes, "Smoltzy, you got to go." And he's like, "No, my manager said I don't have to go, and I'm not going." And then Bobby waddles over and goes, "Come on, Smoltzy." It was classic, it's just one of those ones that'll be embedded in my memory forever.
So great, dude.
Yeah.
So great. Dude, you were talking about Mickey Mantle. I just find it incredible when you look back at, like, I feel like energy's real. I feel like things are attracted to you in life. Like, Will Clark was my idol. And I look back and I was a 302 career hitter and Will Clark's 303. Like, we're like right next to each other in the record books. I'm like, that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at yourself, bro. Like, your dad was a big Mickey Mantle fan, one of the greatest players of all time. And here you are, right up there. Your name and Mickey Mantle are synonymous for the two best switch hitters of all time. Obviously, Eddie Murray's in there.
Too, yep.
Carlos Beltran's in there. Pete Rose is in there, obviously. But for, like, home runs, you're second all time to Mickey Mantle. Your first, all these, categories. What did your dad love about Mantle? And, dude, how does that feel for you, man? When it's all said and done, Chip, you look down and go, gosh, the guy that I actually idolized, I'm right next to in all these record books.
Yeah, I don't know that there was a conscious effort to go out and set a goal of being Mickey Mantle. Obviously, I mean, I was a big Oriole fan growing up because Cal Ripken was my guy. I grew up a shortstop, big,
Right. That's right.
big, tall shortstop. So, I grew up watching Eddie Murray as well. So, seeing the things that he did firsthand, never really got to see Mickey Mantle, but seeing the things that he did firsthand, it motivates you. But I think when you're along the quest, you're just like, you're playing the game. And as well as I do, all you can control in the game of baseball is to be as prepared as you can for the 3 or 4 plays that I'm going to get at third. You played first, so you had a lot more action over there. But the 3 or 4 plays that I can control at third base and the 4 or 5 at bats that I'm going to get to directly affect that night's game, And if I do those things flawlessly, I'm going to get a couple hits. I'm going to make a couple outs. I'm going to produce a run here and there, maybe a couple more, whatever. But if I do my job and I'm 1/9 of that equation, first of all, we're going to win the game. And secondly, at the end of the year, those numbers are going to be there, and that consistency and the mentorship that I had early on in my career from Fred McGriff, consummate pro, David Justice, another consummate pro hitter. I mean, Marquise Grissom, Terry Pendleton. Are you kidding me? I mean, Terry Pendleton was my guy, switch hitter, MVP, third baseman. Talk about some shoes that you have to fill. But my end goal was not Mickey Mantle. My beginning goal was, hey, I don't want to hear anybody in Atlanta say Terry Pendleton would have made that play or Terry Pendleton would have got that hit. That was my goal. I got to keep everybody at arm's length. It was, a fight for survival. And, when the game starts, when you first start your career, the game is so fast. It feels like the 9 innings goes by in 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden, as you start to get your bearings, the game starts to slow down. And it's, at certain points, it's like, I don't want to say slow pitch softball, but, the game slows down to the point where you got a grip on everything. You got everything under control. And then as you get older, the game starts to speed up again. So, as far as your question about Mickey, no, I find myself in awe of the fact that I'm even mentioned with those two guys, or a Pete Rose, or Carlos Beltran, hell of a switch hitter. you can go right on down the line, Mark Teixeira, Chili Davis, all these guys.
Yeah.
To be, right at or near the top of all those categories is awfully gratifying, because that's what my dad and I worked on every day in the backyard to become.
When did you start switch hitting?
7. I was 7 years
7.
old.
Were you naturally righty or lefty?
Natural righty. Yeah.
Wow. And your dad's like, listen, we're going switch. We're gonna switch. We're gonna switch hit a little bit.
Well, I started getting a little lippy one day when I was like 6 or 7, and he's like, "All right, big boy, turn around. Let's do it from the left side." And I was like, "Huh?" And then all of a sudden, it was like, "Man, this feels kind of good." I mean, and I think many people will tell you my left-handed swing was a lot more aesthetically pleasing than my right-handed swing. It's one of those things. Hell, I putt left-handed. I can't hit the cup right-handed from 2 feet, but I putt left-handed, and I swing, right-handed. So
Right-handed.
I'm still incorporating some of the switch hitting into my golf later on in my life.
That's so great.
Did anybody ever try to talk you into just doing one? You hear that from so many switch hitters that had to fight off people saying, "Oh, you're only going to make it in the big leagues as a lefty."
No, I never.
Well, you did it both so well.
I never had that. Early on in my career, I actually struggled right-handed. People would turn me around to my right side because, late in games, with the lefties I had behind me in McGriff, Justice, Klesko, they would bring in a ton of lefties to face me. And I hit for a good average, but there wasn't a lot of damage there. And then in 1999, I got together with Don Baylor, and he came over for a year. And what a hitting coach he was. He was like, "I don't care if you strike out from the right side, you hit third and play third for the best team in the National League, and people need to fear you right-handed just as they do left-handed. And the only way to do that is to, hey, let's get after it. I mean, okay, so we take 8 or 10 points off your batting average, but we add 10 or 12 homers to your total. Now you've gone from, a 25 to 30-ish kind of home run guy. Now you're 35 to 40. And in that case, in 1999, I went from, 35 to 45.
Wow.
So
yeah, Chip. So explain that to me, bro. Like, so what is that when you say, "Hey, we're going to take 10, 15 points off the batting average, but we're going to get 10 to 12 more home runs"? What did Don say to you? Is it getting out in front more, taking some more shots?
Yeah, being more aggressive, like not cutting down as much with 2 strikes, which is totally against my philosophy. I'm like, hey, I want to be the toughest out possible when I walk into that box, and striking out does not agree with me. It never has. So I want to go up there and because you can get some bad hot base hits, you can get on base via error. But he was like, it was more of a, hey, let's be more aggressive driving the ball into the gaps. And as I got older and stronger, those line drives that carried into the gaps started carrying out of the ballpark.
One crazy stat on that, Chipper, you went from 34 home runs to 45 home runs. You only struck out one more time, and your batting average went from 313 to 319. So it's not like you just added
I'm just
runs
telling you
to
the
the equation.
conversation that I had with Don in the cage in spring training. It just so happened that aggression, that ability to be able to drive the ball in the gaps and having a sound approach. Case as well as I do. You've seen a ton of guys who have an immense amount of talent, but they got a 2-cent brain and no approach at the plate. We used to call Jeff Francoeur is a perfect example. We used to call him Captain Caveman. He's just up there,
just swinging out his ass.
I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm like, Frenchie, what pitch do you want to put in play? He's like, I don't know, a strike. Yeah, that's pretty good, Frenchie. And he's got the arm bar, working. So he's like long and slow, and it was just, you know what I mean.
Oh
And
yeah.
with the sound approach, good things will happen. Obviously, I was going on. Let's see, I won MVP in '99, so that was my 5th year in the league, and I think 4 or 5 years in, 6, 7 years in should be your peak years where, okay, I know what guys are trying to do to me now. I've faced them enough times that now the pendulum's starting to swing in my favor because the familiarity
Yeah.
with these guys is such that I can make adjustments quicker.
Yeah, dude, I gotta stay here because, dude, like I said, you're one of the greatest to do it, and you did it from both sides of the plate, which is incredible. But getting back into the dugout a couple years ago with the Yankees as the hitting coach for the second half, and it's amazing because a lot of the analytics will say, "Hey, the exit velo is best on the pull side in the air." And what you're starting to notice is a lot of the coaches are trying to teach pull side in the air. And I was a big believer of like, hey, listen, you want to get to the pull side in the air, you better be able to hit a line drive into that opposite field gap because your pull side in the air are a lot of like hanging sliders, hanging curveballs, backup changeups. Like that four-seam fastball in doesn't even exist anymore, and we're practicing it. So what was your approach at the plate, Chip, and what's your thought process too on that, like trying to go pull side in the air?
I 1000% agree with everything you just said, and it's exactly what I'm major league hitting coordinator for the Braves now. I'm a third set of eyes for all the guys. So whenever I go in, I want to hammer on these guys. We're going to swing north, okay? We're going to swing north towards the Jumbotron, okay? If we stay north and we hunt the fastball. We're not guessing. We don't guess.
Right.
We hunt, okay? We hunt fastball, all right? If it's not a fastball, we spit, all right? But if you stay off gap, meaning opposite field gap, on the four-seamer, all right, that changeup and that curveball and that slider that they hang for a strike, that's the one that we catch out front, and that's the one that we clip to the pull side, all right? So with Austin Riley, we got a big State Farm sign out in right center field. And whenever he's going good, he pummels that State Farm sign. And that's all I have to say to him, okay? Because he has a tendency to leak. And what I mean by leak is kind of steps towards shortstop, and he will miss pitches on the plate off the end of the bat, okay?
Right.
Which tells me that he's maybe cheating, but maybe getting fooled. And if we if we stay in there just a little bit longer, we see the ball longer, all right? That way our chase rate off the outside corner goes down, our walks go up, our on-base percentage goes up, and our number of balls, hard hit balls put in play go up. And when he's hammering balls off that State Farm sign, he's right. And so, when I come in and, he's been struggling a little bit, all I have to say to him is State Farm. State Farm. And he knows exactly what I'm talking about. He's leaking a little bit. And same with Marcell Ozuna. He's kind of a leaker as well. But you see, when those guys are going good, it's not pull side in the air homers. It's opposite gap, pull gap, dead center field. Because if I get Sean, I ask every hitter this. First time I talk to him, I give you 10 pitches down the middle in batting practice, and I tell you to hook or try and hit the ball out of the ballpark down the right field line. How many balls do you center?
I mean,
how many balls do you center up for a homer? Maybe 3 or 4, maybe.
I was gonna say not many. If I'm doing that, I'm getting around the ball more. I'm not
hooking
as quick.
Balls. Yeah,
I'm hooking balls. 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not as good. If I'm staying dead center, I'm driving balls right center. If I'm thinking that, I could almost hit 10 out of 10 out. But if I'm hooking, I'm in trouble.
100%. Okay. This is what I ask the guys. All right, same 10 pitches right down the middle. and I tell you to knock down the center field wall, how many do you center?
A
8,
lot. 8. I was gonna say
9.
at least 8. At
Okay.
least 8.
Okay. So why would your approach change in the game? Why?
Right.
Why? So that's the kind of light bulb moment for a lot of guys is when I say it shouldn't change. You know, if you're hammering ball after ball off the center field wall, why aren't you trying to do that in the game? You know, and they kind of get it after that.
Yeah, dude, Chip, I love this, man. And here's the thing I think people struggle with. That's a simple approach. It doesn't mean it's easy to execute, but it's a simple approach. I think nowadays we feel like we have to make it more complicated than it is. It's been working for 150 plus years, but people don't, that's too simple. It's just, that's how they used to do it. I'm like, no, that's how the greatest players of all time have done it. And look at the numbers. It's not like Chipper Jones was playing in a little league field. Guys playing in the same parks that they're playing in now. And look at the numbers, almost 3,000 hits. All these, these is how the greatest hitters of all time talk like this.
Yeah. And you can go on X, you can go on Twitter, and you will find dumbass after dumbass trying to argue with me about how a ball should be hit in the big league. I mean, it's so.
That's amazing. And you go right back at him, which is amazing.
I'll go at it with it, man. It's fun for me, and I get a couple pops in me at night, and I'm just like, I'll roll with these guys.
It's incredible, dude. I love that, though. I love that thought process. What about Matt Olson? Why do you think Matt Olson last year, man, he had such an incredible year in 2023, and obviously you and I know it's not easy to just replicate a year. Hey, he led the league in home runs and RBIs. That's tough to do. But last year I felt like, man, he got going towards the end. Why do you think he had he scuffled during the year last year?
We struggle with Matt. First of all, it's an unorthodox swing. He's a tall, lanky guy with a lot of levers. Okay, he's got a lot of stuff going on, and the biggest thing with him, I think, is balance, because he has a tendency to swing east. All right, so instead of staying north, he has a tendency to kind of spin because he gets beat inside quite a bit, and really kind of loses his balance. So my big thing with him is, okay, he's a straight up and down guy. Not as straight up and down as like a Cody Bellinger would be, but he's pretty straight up and down. So what I try to get with him is I want to move his spine angle in. Well, I guess it would be this way. I want to get his spine angle to move in about an inch and a half. So instead of being like this, now we're like this, and it gets your, not only does it help you with your plate coverage, but it helps you to swing north if you keep your posture. Okay. Now, if he goes here and comes up out of it, guess what? He's still going to fall off towards the first base dugout. But if he's got that little lean of about an inch or two at address, now all of a sudden that spine angle stays the same, and it's a lot easier to stay on the slider away. It's a lot easier for him to swing north, and it's hard with him because he's got some moving parts, and he's got those long levers. But boy, when he gets it rolling, man, he's an MVP candidate.
It's pretty impressive. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. Dude, I don't think there's anyone that I played against or played with that probably had more confidence than you. I honestly thought, when the game came up in the ninth, oh, God, I look at the line and go, man, Chipper's coming up. That's not good. That's not good. If it's 4-3 game, this isn't good for anybody. Right. Dude, where did that confidence come from for you? And when you were struggling, how were you able to, get it back?
Well, my dad's a baseball coach, but he is the beta in the family. My mother is a professional equestrian, and she's the alpha, and I learned a lot from her, watching her ride into the ring. It was and I paid attention, a lot of kids don't, but I paid attention. Remember when Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa used to come to town, and people used to used to stay after their batting practice to watch them take batting practice.
It was the only time I watched batting practice was really McGuire.
Me too. All right. So my point is that's what people used to do to my mom. You know,
Really?
they used to drop everything they were doing to watch her. And she told me very early on, she goes, when you walk out on that baseball field, you think, might not be, but you think you're the best player out there. You know, you let that pitcher know that he's in for one, you know, hell of a fight. And I've just always had that kind of mentality. There's been a bunch of times I've walked on the baseball field and I wasn't the best player. I knew I wasn't the best player. People ask me all the time, you know, about my numbers with Randy Johnson. I think I hit 360 with like 6 bombs off of him. And I go, yeah, but what the numbers don't tell you is, you know, I never struck out much. Certainly didn't have 3, you know, have the hat trick in a game very often. I think I had maybe 7 or 8 my whole career, and he gave me 3 of them, and he threw a perfect game against us. And one other time, he struck me out 3 times, and a reliever struck me out a 4th. The only time I ever had a sombrero was when he was in San Francisco. So the numbers don't always tell the story, but it goes to show you what putting the ball in play against dominant pitchers who rely a lot on the strikeout. You know, you put the ball in play against them, you center them up, ball goes a long way, and it goes somewhere hard. You know, so that was always kind of the way I approached those dominant guys.
Jim, what was your approach with 2 strikes? Because nowadays I think guys are just like, you know, sometimes I almost feel like it's a pitching machine swing because it's like the ball could be sinking away, but it looks like the ball was middle in. I'm like, what were you? Where's the adjustability on your hands? Like, what were you thinking with 2 strikes? Were you spreading out? Were you thinking just put the ball in play?
It was the swing lengthened out the farther I went into my career, because my approach was always left center field gap. So, you know, you could say, okay, you could choke up and still say left center field, but if the book on me was, hey, we're going to go soft for a strike early in the count, and then we're going to come hard in late. All right. So if it was the right time, if it was the right guy, I would look to do damage with 2 strikes. Okay. But with, you know, most of the time, my approach never changed. I was off cap 95% of the time. So it wasn't really, as long as I'm staying inside the baseball with my bat path, I'm going to make contact.
And it worked over the years. God dang, it worked. When you look back at, sorry, I got a question for you. For like Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, Ichiro, like they're getting ready to write their Hall of Fame speeches. You know, you guys are in a class of like the greatest Hall of Fame out there. It's the 1%ers of the 1%ers. It's a different level. You know, can you take us back to first off putting together your Hall of Fame speech, and what does it feel like that first year you go in, Chip? You know what I mean? Like, you know, with and who are some of the dudes that you talked to that first year? You're like, I can't believe I'm talking to these guys.
Yeah, it's being a rookie all over again, walking into that clubhouse for the first time. You know, you know you've got all-stars, you know you got future Hall of Famers in there. You shut up, you sit down, you don't say much, you speak when spoken to, that kind of thing. But right now is a really nervous time too, because you know you want to encapsulate in 15 minutes your whole baseball life. You know, you want to say your thank yous and you want to tell your stories. I think the first draft of my Hall of Fame speech was like 31 minutes long, you know, and you know, finally my agent calls me up. I sent it to him and he's like, good Lord, dude. He's like, you cannot thank everybody. You know, you You can't do it. He goes, I know you want to tell a story every once in a while. I had a cool Mickey Mantle story that I told during my speech. But it's like, mom, dad, wife, couple of coaches, like you can't touch on everybody. You got to knock this thing down to. I ended up knocking it down to like 19 minutes, and I was still starting to get a couple of, back here. The guys behind me are like, "Hey, let's wrap it up, dude. It's 98 freaking degrees out here." You know? It was, but I think I nailed it, and it's a very nerve wracking time because you want to be brief, you want to be funny, you want to be entertaining, you want to thank everybody, but you can't, and you're afraid to leave people out. Who do I leave out? Who do I put in? And you got to bite the bullet, and I think if you're entertaining, you can get away with a lot more than if you're not.
That's so good, man. So good. One of the last things we do, man, we like to go back and look back on play a little game called Who Owned You and Who Did You Own?
That's a good one.
So let's start off with Who Owned You.
We got into this on Twitter like maybe 10 days or a couple weeks ago. People don't realize that. I finished second to Hideo Nomo in the Rookie of the Year. A lot of people say I should have won it. A lot of people say he should have won it. He should have won it. 2 for 35, bro. 2 for 35.
Oh my God! 2 for 35. What, the split? You couldn't see the split.
Couldn't see it, right? But I will say this. This is what I do have on it. 2 for 2 with a walk in the postseason and a dinger. All right, a dinger. Got him with a counter.
Hey, let's go,
I'll give you another one, and you know this one well. All right.
Yeah.
4-seam ride heater, big Uncle Charlie curveball. Woody Williams.
Dude, with the little cutter too, little cutter to like keep you honest.
I was 1 for 23 off of Woody. 3 for 26.
3 for 26.
1 homer. No,
but you didn't strike out. You didn't strike out.
It just wasn't very hard.
Dude, isn't that so funny? You're talking Hideo Nomo, who had a nice career, but Woody Williams, like you'd think, like Chipper Jones, like and then you look at your numbers versus Randy Johnson. But there's certain guys sometimes, like I just can't get a beat on them. I don't know what it is.
You one of the nastiest dudes I ever faced, and I bet you will agree with me. I had some success off of him, but this dude was elbows, kneecaps, 96 filth, 4-seamer, bowling ball 2-seamer, split, cutter, Kevin Brown.
Oh my gosh, dude. Kevin Brown. Dude, he would throw that bowling ball sinker, and I'd be like, oh my God. Black 98. Yeah. And he's just like, he's just railing away. He was so nasty.
How about you got lighter 3 times, but he struck you out 17 times? That's most strikeouts is against Al Leiter.
20 times a year in Florida and New York. He's gonna get me some. But yeah, I asked that question. We were going at it with some Twitter guys, and I was like, I never knew who struck me out. I knew it was gonna be somebody in my division, but I never knew who it was that struck me out the most. It turns out it was your old buddy at MLB Network, Al Leiter. So,
good old Al, yeah. Just going nuts out there, throwing cutter.
I loved him because it was 4-seam fastball, it was cutter, then it was slider, then it was curveball. So it was a constant kind of, hey, I'm going to stay on the inside corner, but then I'm going to see how far you will expand it off the inside corner, and that's when you back off the plate 2 inches. And you make the inside corner of the middle of the plate, And then if you see it inside, it's definitely got to be off the plate. So, those were guys that own me. As far as
Yeah, who'd you own, bro? We know Randy Johnson. Seriously, we got to give you that 361 with 6 bombs. Even Randy would say it.
Roy Halladay.
Yeah.
Roy Halladay.
Wow, really? Dude, I was gonna say he was nasty on me. Like he had my head. Why? How did you own him?
I seem to always be on the same page with him. What were the numbers off of him? Since
You got 11 for 21 in 23 plate appearances, 3 bombs, and you hit 524.
Oh my gosh, dude, he was nasty too.
3 doubles, 3
You
bombs.
must have been in
and
his
11
dome
hits.
so bad, dude.
In all fairness, I mean, I faced him when he was Roy Halladay, and then kind of when he was, on the downside of his career. But those at bats in Philly, when you had to go in and face Halladay, Hamels, Cliff Lee in Philly, dude, that was as close to Maddox, Glavine, and Smoltz that I got to see on a fairly often basis, So
Yeah. Who else?
How about 302 against Cole Hamels with 6 doubles, 2 bombs in 50 plate appearances?
Levon Hernandez.
Who else?
Levon Hernandez.
Oh, Levon.
12
doubles.
12 doubles. You faced him 92 plate appearances, 55 ribbies, 17 ribbies, 13 walks, hit 347.
If you were struggling, you're like, oh man, when we face Levon Hernandez.
But just the difference. Here's how you can compare the difference nowadays versus back then. Okay, I own Levon. I absolutely love facing Levon, but you give him an Eric Gregg strike zone, he could abuse you, right? So now Levon would not have the success today that he did back then because what's happened, the strike zone has shrunk. If he can get, just like Maddox and Glavine, if the umpire's giving him 4 or 5 inches off the plate, you're screwed, man. Like, you can control 17 inches, you can't control 27 inches. It's impossible.
Right. Yeah, it was. You're right. When those guys got 3 inches off, I was like, it's checkmate. It was almost impossible to get them, dude. Chip, man, this has been absolutely incredible. We could talk to you all day, man. We appreciate the time and the insights and all of it, dude. More importantly, it's great catching up with you, man.
But anytime you guys want to do this again, holler at me.
All right, Chip. Well, man, take care of yourself, brother. Thank you, man.